What's up, Doc? Well, if you haven't guessed it already, we're celebrating Easter, and what better way to celebrate anything than with food? You're probably like, Aaron, what are we making? You got plastic eggs, you got a carrot that you're chewing on like your Bugs Bunny. How is this gonna tie in to what you're making? And I'll reveal that in a second after I tell you about my thought process of what I was gonna make today, because I was a little bit at a loss. I don't really have strong Easter foods that I associate like with Easter. Unlike some other holidays, I'm like, this is what I'm gonna make like every year. I don't really have that tradition established. And so I was trying to think to myself, I'm like, well, it's eggs, and like rabbits is kind of like the big theme of the day. And I was like, well, I don't have any really egg forward recipes, nor do I have rabbit forward recipes. I don't think I've made anything with rabbit before. But so I was trying to think, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just dye eggs. And I'm like, it might be kind of boring. Because it's just essentially just boil eggs and then dye them. And then I was like, well, maybe I could do like deviled eggs, because that's, an egg and it's delicious. But then I thought, I was like, well, Easter is, the whole Jesus coming back to life kind of holiday. So I feel like something with devil in the name probably isn't the best option. So then it hit me. A recipe that I've made two other times. I pretty much made it back to back, so in my head it's just once. And I was like, we got it. This will work. Because it's related, you'll see. But I want you to try and think and guess. Be like, what crazy idea would Aaron think of? And then I'm gonna reveal it from this egg. Are you ready? Let me position myself. You ready? 3, 2, 1. It's eggplant! I'm gonna make an eggplant dish, and it's gonna be delicious. So hopefully that buildup was worth it. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. It's gonna be tasty. All right, let's run through those ingredients. We got ricotta cheese, tomato sauce, thyme, breadcrumbs, heavy cream, lemon, both for the juice and the zest. Obviously, eggplant, and a little bit of salt. Now that we know all the ingredients, the next step is read that recipe and make a game plan. You ready for the game plan? First up is cut the eggplant. Then it's fried the eggplant. Then it will be make the filling, which you probably can do while it's frying because that's a lot of downtime. Then it's roll the eggplant with the filling inside. And then it's fill the dish with tomato sauce. Well, not fill, but line the bottom. And then you put the eggplants that are rolled up in there, put a little heavy cream on top to keep the moisture for when it goes into the oven, and then put it in the oven, which you had turned on at some point that I didn't list. We'll figure that out. And and then bake for 20 to 25 minutes. And then my favorite step, eating it. Well, that's the game plan that I thought of. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. And let's get to work. This recipe, similar to last week, has a very kind of intense, time intense first step, where after you cut the eggplant, you have to let it sit for an hour, because you're gonna put some salt on it and it'll draw the moisture out. And nothing really you can do to get around it, but just plan accordingly. If you try making this, don't think you're gonna make it in 20 minutes. You got a plan. So do the first step, and then run to the gym, go for a run, watch a TV show, take a nap. I mean, it's long enough. It's an hour. You got some time to burn. So let's get into cutting and then waiting around. Now that we've waited for the hour, the eggplant is ready to get fried. And since I'm wearing clothes that I would prefer not to have grease splatter on, I put on an apron, and it says "All my friends are dead," and it's a dinosaur, and I love it. But now that I'm in the appropriate frying attire, let's get to frying. All right, next step is to make the filling, and with that I have 2 tips before you dive into it. The first one is with zesting lemon. Remember, you just want the yellow exterior. You don't want to go crazy, get down to the like white pulpy part that's right below the skin, because that tastes bitter, and you don't want that in your food. The other tip is for breadcrumbs. Probably really only applies to me and by proxy gluten-free people, but I mean, I don't know, maybe normal breadcrumbs cost a lot. I haven't bought them in many years, so I can't remember, but I'd assume, much like everything else, the gluten-free version is very expensive. So I found a cheap alternative, because in loaves of bread, nobody eats the end bits because society, I don't know, but I save those over many loaves. Put them in my fridge, keep them in our freezer, whichever floats your boat. Make sure there's no mold on it, because then, you know, obviously the whole batch gets ruined. But I blend them up and then make my own. And then that's just free breadcrumbs right there, because I wouldn't have eaten those end slices anyways. So making use of it, getting every last penny out of that insane loaf of bread. If you're ever really bored, go to the store, look at a normal loaf of bread, how much it costs, and also the size. That's the other tricky part. Size between gluten-free stuff is different. So look at the size of look at the price of a normal loaf of bread, and then look at the price of gluten-free bread, and you'll see why I'm blending the end bits for breadcrumbs, because it's ridiculous. Enough of that, let's make the filling. Now that the eggplant has fried and the filling is made, it's time to roll them all up into a delicious burrito of tastiness. Or a cannoli? Well, no, I guess you don't really roll cannoli. Anyway, the next step is to roll the filling in the fried eggplant. Let's get to that before I go on a tangent. Now that we got them all rolled up, the next step is to put some tomato sauce into the dish, and then put the eggplant rolls into that. I don't know how to make egg rolls, but that would have also been a fun thing to make today. Next year we'll make egg rolls. Anyway, on to the next step. All right, now that everything's all rolled up together and in the dish, throw it in the oven and let it bake for 20 to 25 minutes. It just finished baking. Hopefully you can kind of see that. I don't want to tip it too far because there's a lot of liquid in there, but it smells fantastic. Hopefully it looked fantastic from that angle, and it's hot in my hand, so I need to put it down. Well, and there you have it. That's all the steps for making eggplant in voltini, and it's not a difficult recipe per se. It takes some time with the hour wait time at pretty much step one, but cutting the eggplant is a little tricky, but beyond that, it's pretty straightforward. If you own a mandolin, literally no excuse for why you haven't started making that right now. Go now, go buy some eggplant. They're usually pretty cheap and nobody else is buying them, so there's a ton just sitting there. And you can try something new. I had never actually tried eggplant before making this recipe, so if you've never tried eggplant and you're trying to use that as an excuse, you can't now, because I just took that from you. So I'm sorry. And as you go deal with that emotional shift in reality that I just gave you, I'm gonna go eat dinner. And so on that note, bye Mom, still not dead. See ya.